Discover the incredible heartwarming journey of a cowboy who found family in her unexpected cabin. Jessie stood in the middle of her ranch, the chill of the Appalachian wind biting at her skin, and all she could feel was a weight pressing down on her heart. The land, rich with memories of her father, whispered his name as if urging her to remember. At just 26, the loneliness had begun to become a familiar shadow that followed her through dusk, questioning if she could uphold the legacy left behind. Her father's laughter echoed in the creaks of the old barn, a reminder of the joy that once filled the space now heavy with silence. Each evening, under the blanket of stars, Jessie's heart ached a tug-of-war between her dreams of expanding the ranch and the crushing loneliness of isolation. That night, the sky cracked open. A storm rolled through, fierce and angry, drenching the world in chaos. The wind howled like a wounded beast, urging Jessie to flee. Seeking shelter, she stumbled upon the old cabin nestled among the trees. Townsfolk had whispered about it, cautioning that it held more stories than ghosts. Jessie hesitated, her heart quickening. As she stepped inside, the musty air welcomed her, filled with the promise of warmth that chased away the chill. Inside, she found Hank, a war veteran nursing quiet heartache, Betty, the warm-eyed elder with biscuits that seemed to carry healing magic, and Charlie, whose strumming guitar once filled the air with music but now lay silent. The room was alive with echoes of laughter and sorrow, and Jessie felt her heart tremble at the hint of connection. Their eyes were tentative, but it wasn't long before they began to share their stories, each scar a testament to survival. "Life's got its way of tying people together," Hank remarked, his gaze steady on Jessie. It was in this moment, as the storm raged outside, that she began to feel something stir within her, a blooming sense of belonging, a glimmer of hope against her aching loneliness. Betty's biscuits melted in her mouth, each bite a reminder that warmth could be found in unexpected places. Charlie's fingers danced over an old guitar, stirring something deep inside her, a yearning for life outside responsibilities. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As laughter mingled with the thunder outside, Jessie learned of the community's struggles. People like her, tied to the land and each other in ways that ran deeper than blood. They were dreamers, fighters, and together they started fixing up the cabin, sharing more than just tools but fragments of their lives. But then came the news: a corporate development project aimed at their little town, threatening to uproot everything they held dear. Jessie felt the pressure rise, her heart divided between the legacy of her family ranch and the bonds she had begun to forge with these newfound friends. As the storm quieted, so too did the thickness of doubt surrounding her future. Jessie stood at a crossroads. Would she chase the dreams that had once felt so sure, or join the fight to protect this unexpected family? The sun broke through the clouds, casting light on the choices ahead, and she felt it, an undeniable pull towards the community that had welcomed her, a family born not from blood but from shared struggle. In that moment, she knew one thing for certain: whatever lay ahead, she wouldn't be facing it alone. Jessie awoke the next morning to the soft glow of the sun filtering through the dusty cabin window. It felt different. The weight on her chest felt lighter, almost as if the storm had washed away some of her lingering doubts. Stretching her arms overhead, she looked around. Sounds of laughter and movement were already stirring from the kitchen. Betty's presence was unmistakable, and the familiar aroma of freshly baked biscuits wafted through the air, coaxing Jessie from her cozy spot. As she stepped into the kitchen, she found Hank and Charlie bustling about. Charlie was tuning his guitar while Hank was cracking jokes, making Betty chuckle in between her flour-dusted tasks. Jessie's heart swelled at the sight. It was life. It was warmth. It was the family she had been yearning for, wrapped neatly in bonds of friendship. "Hey there, sleepyhead. You ready for a little work today?" Hank asked with a playful grin. "Absolutely. I'm eager to help with whatever you have planned," Jessie replied, a newfound energy coursing through her veins. She had decided she would fight for this little community and the connections it offered. After breakfast, the gang gathered outside, ready to tackle repairs on the cabin. As they chipped away at the peeling wood and rusted hinges, they shared stories, laughter, and even tears. Jessie wiped sweat from her brow and found joy in their camaraderie. Every nail hammered and felt like a step forward, not just for the cabin, but in solidifying their bond. Charlie picked up his guitar when they took a break, filling the air with a haunting melody. Jessie leaned back against the cabin wall, closing her eyes and allowing the music to take her away. It reminded her of time spent with her father, those sweet slow dances around the living room. But her thoughts were shaken when each note intertwined with a memory of the looming project threatening to tear this community apart. It was a stark reminder that, despite the laughter and joy, they all faced an uncertain future. Jessie opened her eyes, glancing around at her companions who were lost in the music. There was so much at stake. After lunch, they gathered in a circle on the porch to discuss their plans for the upcoming town meeting. Jessie listened intently as Hank voiced the fears and struggles of the ranchers, farmers, and small businesses that would be impacted. Everyone was worried, but there was also a simmering determination in the air. "What if we organized a rally?" Jessie suggested suddenly, her voice stronger than she felt. "Show the developers that we want to be pushed out without a fight." There was a moment of silence, then Charlie nodded firmly. "I like it. We need to show them we're united. Families, neighbors, they can't just come in and take what we love." Hank and Betty voiced their agreement, eyes lit with fire. As the afternoon sun dipped lower in the sky, Jessie felt the spark ignite in her chest. They rallied around her idea, creating signs and plans, as a surge of hope mingled with the urgency of action danced in the air between them. But it didn't quell the gnawing worry deep within her. Could they really make a difference? That night, Jessie lay awake in bed, the sounds of her newfound family drifting through the walls. She yearned for them to succeed. As sleep began to tug at her eyelids, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to venture into something bigger than themselves. The next day would change everything. Would they be ready to face the unknown together, or would fear overshadow their fight? As sleep swept her away into dreams of resistance and hope, Jessie knew the moment of truth was coming. The sun rose boldly the next morning, casting long shadows across the cabin porch where Jessie sat, her heart racing with anticipation. Today was the day they would rally. The energy in her chest felt electric, firing her up like she had never experienced before. She took a deep breath, letting the crisp morning air fill her lungs. Today, they weren't just fighting for themselves, they were standing up for their shared home. As Jessie stepped inside, the kitchen buzzed with purpose. Betty was assembling breakfast, her skills on display as she flipped pancakes in the air, while Hank and Charlie hurriedly covered the table with signs and markers. The smell of syrup laced the air, and Jessie's stomach rumbled. Despite the serious mission ahead, moments like this grounded her, reminding her of what they were fighting for. "All right, team," Hank said, slapping the table for emphasis. "We've got a busy day ahead. We'll gather everyone at the park after lunch, and we need to get our message clear. Jessie, you'll lead the rally, won't you?" Jessie's heart stopped for a beat. "Me?" she squeaked. Doubt surged through her. But she quickly squashed it. Fear wouldn't win today. "Yeah, you've sparked the flame, Jessie. Your idea," Charlie encouraged, giving her a thumbs up. Her friends believed in her. That meant something. Jessie wiped sweaty palms on her jeans. "Okay, let us do this," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. After breakfast, the group hopped into Hank's truck, heading to the park where they set up their gathering space. Jessie helped Hank and Betty put up a huge banner while Charlie strummed a few upbeat chords on his guitar to lift spirits. Around them, the community slowly trickled in, curious faces lighting up as they caught sight of the colorful signs that popped against the dull park backdrop. But as Jessie looked out at the sea of people, her pulse quickened. Each face represented someone's home, their dreams. Would they be enough to pull together? when the time came, Jessie stepped up to the makeshift stage, her heart pounding like a drum. She opened her mouth, but the nerves twisted the words into knots. Hey everyone, she started, trying to find her footing. A few friendly smiles from the crowd eased her tension. Thank you all for being here. We stand together today not just as ranchers or farmers, or small business owners, but as a community. We're here to show them the words flowed better now, each syllable laying down the foundations of hope. Jessie spoke of unity, love, and persistence. She could feel the crowd's energy shift. They were listening. They were with her. As she wrapped up, the applause that followed was thunderous, but Jessie's ears caught something different behind the clapping. Voices from the fringes, whispers of fear and doubt clawed at her heart. Would this be enough? As Hank took the stage to lead another chant, Jessie stepped back into the crowd. She locked eyes with Betty, who smiled encouragingly, but Jessie couldn't shake the worry festering deep within. Do you really think we can change their minds? She asked, leaning in close to Betty. I think we can certainly try, Betty said reassuringly, but the smile faltered, and doubt flickered in her eyes. Just then, Charlie grabbed the mic once more, turning the crowd's attention back. Now, let us raise our voices. Let us show them what we are made of. The air erupted with cheers, but Jessie felt her hands tremble. It was exhilarating yet terrifying. Would their effort make a difference, or would their voices be swallowed by the storm headed their way? As they began to chant, Jessie felt something shift within her. Hope filled the air, yet a shadow lurked just beyond the horizon. But Jessie had to wonder, would their united voices be enough to overcome what was coming? And deep down, she needed to know what sacrifices would they have to make to keep their community alive. Jessie could hardly process the lively energy around her. The cheering, the chanting, it was like music, yet the notes felt raw and jagged in her chest. She watched Hank, who was rallying the crowd with spirited chants, his face bright with conviction. The community's spirit was electric. But she could feel an undercurrent of tension in the air, something lurking just below the surface. The sun hung high, casting light over the park, but Jessie couldn't shake the feeling of dread. The leaders from the town council were known for their tough stance on community initiatives. What would happen when they heard the roar from the crowd? Would they dismiss it? Would they mock them? Jessie glanced at her friends, their faces reflecting determination, but there was a flicker of concern in their eyes too. Jessie! Come here. Betty's voice sliced through the noise, snapping Jessie back to reality. She looked over to see Betty waving her over with urgency. When she approached, Betty handed her a stack of pamphlets. We need to get these out, she said, her tone more serious than usual. They outline our plans for the community center and the importance of keeping our farms sustainable. We can't just shout and hope for change. We have to show them. Okay, Jessie replied, taking the pamphlets with hesitant hands. But what if they just throw them away? They might, Betty said honestly, but at least we tried. We have to lay out our vision. They need to understand what this community means to us. Jessie nodded, feeling a tinge of resolve. She took a deep breath and surveyed the crowd once more. People were milling around, their faces filled with passion as they clutched their homemade signs. She was ready to step into the fray. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jessie began making her way through the crowd, handing pamphlets to anyone who would take them. Thank you for being here. Your voice matters, she'd say as she smiled at them, determined to connect. With each person who nodded, each set of eyes that lit up with understanding, her spirit lifted a little more. Suddenly, Jessie felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see a woman she recognized, a local farmer named Edna. Edna had been at the heart of the community for decades. Jessie, Edna said, her voice warm yet firm, I've been following your lead. What you're doing here is more than just today. It's about our legacy. Jessie's heart swelled. We're all in this together, right? Absolutely, Edna replied, her gaze unwavering. Together, we can withstand any storm. But as Jessie looked into Edna's aging eyes, she also saw a weight of worry reflected back. The pressure mounted not just to speak out, but to hold everyone's hopes in her hands. As the afternoon wore on, the chants grew louder, blending into something almost melodic. But the rhythmic swell of voices was abruptly halted when a black SUV pulled up. Jessie's stomach twisted into knots as men in suits climbed out. They were members of the council. The same faces who had been silent while the community fought for recognition. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Whispers rippled through the crowd, an unwelcome chill creeping in. Jessie felt her heart pound in a rhythm that matched the wild cheers just moments before. Would the council listen to them, or would they silence their voices? She repositioned herself at the front, the pamphlet still clutched tightly in her hands. Now was the moment to transform doubt into determination. She had to tell them what they stood for. With every ounce of courage she could muster, Jessie took a deep breath, calling out, "Let us show them our strength. Together, we can make a difference." Her voice echoed through the crowd, but would it reach the cold ears of the council? The energy was palpable, but deep inside, Jessie felt a chill of uncertainty. Would they stand together, or were they about to face a storm that could tear them apart? Her pulse quickened as she watched the men approach. What were they thinking? Would this be the beginning of their new chapter, or the end of everything they had built together? Jessie held her breath, watching the council members approach, their suits stark against the vibrant colors of the crowd. The chatter around her softened as people began shifting, uncertainty washing over their faces. She gripped the stack of pamphlets tightly, feeling the paper crumple beneath her fingers, the small sound drowned in the silence that had fallen like a heavy blanket. One of the councilmen, a tall man with silver hair and a steely demeanor, stepped forward. He squared his shoulders and scanned the crowd, his expression unreadable. "What's all this?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Hank stepped up, his voice steady despite the palpable anxiety in the air. "We're here to advocate for our community, to ensure our voices are heard. We want to support our farms and secure funding for the community center." As Hank spoke, Jessie found a sliver of hope. She could feel the strength of his conviction radiating to those around him. Yet, the councilman's eyes narrowed, and Jessie braced herself for the expected pushback. "You think shouting in a park will change our minds?" The words dripped with sarcasm, followed by a chuckle from one of the men flanking him. The laughter sent a shockwave through the crowd. Some shuffled their feet, others exchanged worried glances. But Jessie couldn't let this moment slip away. "No," she said, stepping forward. "We're not just shouting. We're standing together." Her voice wavered slightly but rose with determination. "This is about our future, about our families. We deserve a chance." The murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, encouraging her to continue. The faces of her friends flashed in her mind: Betty, Edna, everyone who believed in a better tomorrow. This was their moment, and she had to make every word count. The councilman crossed his arms, unimpressed. "I see a lot of emotion but very little substance. What are you actually proposing?" Jessie felt the weight of all their hopes pressing down on her. "A sustainable plan. We're looking for investment in community-led projects that support our farmers and promote local businesses. We want our voices not only heard but also integrated into your decisions." There was raw energy in her words, and she could see it resonate with the crowd. Heads nodded, murmurs grew stronger, and the collective resolve began to surface. But still, Jessie could sense the hesitation from the men in suits. "Interesting pitch," the councilman said, leaning back slightly. "But how do I know you can deliver? This isn't just about good intentions." "There's always a risk," Hank interjected, "but what's the cost of inaction? Ignoring us? Left unchecked, our community will suffer. Do you want that on your conscience? We're ready to work and show you why investing in us is worthwhile." The council members exchanged glances, a few appearing slightly taken aback by the unity in front of them. However, Jessie saw the skepticism still etched on their faces. This wasn't the end. It was merely a step forward, but doubt fluttered relentlessly in her chest. As she looked into the crowd, Jessie caught Edna's gaze, a flicker of support igniting in the older woman's expression. The community's strength surged within Jessie. She glanced back at the councilman, determination hardening her resolve. "Let us talk," he said finally, softening just the tiniest fraction. Could this be the breakthrough they had longed for? Hope swelled in Jessie, but unease lingered. The storm wasn't over yet. "Ask your questions," she urged. Jessie knew every response mattered, every answer could either strengthen their bond or tear them apart. Would they finally get the chance to be heard, or was it too late to change their fate? The answer, Jessie realized, lay in this next conversation. Jessie took a deep breath, the weight of the moment sweeping through her like a rush of wind. She could see the councilman's expression beginning to shift, but the crowd was still tense. Every face held questions, but it was within them that she could sense the burgeoning hope that had stitched them together. "All right then, what exactly do you want from us?" The councilman addressed Jessie directly, leaning forward as if he might find some truth etched in her face. His voice was no longer mocking, it carried a hint of curiosity, almost invitation. Jessie's heart raced. "We need funding for the community center and grants for our local farmers to shift toward sustainable practices. That means education on crop diversification and support for farmers' markets." With every word, she could feel the energy course through her veins. They were fighting for something real. The councilman scratched his chin thoughtfully. "And how do you plan to ensure these projects are executed properly?" "That's the beauty of community," Hank chimed in. "We will form a committee, locals who know the land, understand the market, and have the passion to see this through." A ripple of agreement danced through the crowd, and Jessie felt a swell of strength in their unity. Their eyes sparkled with determination, reinforced by the prospect of tangible change. "But how do you expect us, the council, to put our faith behind this?" asked another council member, a younger woman who had remained quiet until now. "We need more than just words." Jessie's mind raced. "We'll create a clear timeline and benchmarks. We open our door for collaboration. We will report back regularly to show our progress. We aren't asking for a handout. We are investing in ourselves, and we welcome your scrutiny." The younger woman leaned back, intrigued, and Jessie saw something shift in the councilman's demeanor as well. Maybe they were starting to see the possibilities beyond their suits and bureaucratic walls. With the air thick with tension, Jessie knew she had one last shot. She took a step forward, pouring her heart into her next words. "Every day you ignore our voices is another day our community suffers. The families here depend on those farms and that center. If we work together, we can create something beautiful. Something lasting. Please look beyond the paperwork. Look into our eyes. We are here, ready to fight for our future." Silence fell again, though this time it felt charged with possibility. Voices faded into whispers of encouragement. Jessie met Hank's gaze, reflecting the same anxious optimism. This is it, they were standing at a threshold, one that could define them. Slowly, the councilman nodded. "All right. Let us take this back to our next meeting. I can't promise you anything yet," but a shout broke through the crowd, vibrant and full of life. "We will hold you to it." It echoed like a war cry, and the murmurs soon swelled into cheers. Jessie struggled to keep her emotions in check, tears threatening to spill as that flicker of hope blossomed into a flame. The council members exchanged uncertain glances, but Jessie could see they were taking the request seriously. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. "Thank you for listening," Jessie said, her voice steady. "We'll be waiting for your response. Together, we can make this work." As the councilman stepped back, Jessie felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. They were finally on the cusp of something real. And yet, as they all began to disperse, a prickling unease crept back into her heart. What if the council didn't follow through? What if this was just empty hope? She looked around at the crowd, feeling the energy slowly dissipate. Could the power of their voices carry beyond today? As the last echoes of applause faded into the park, Jessie found herself staring into the horizon. The sky painted with warm pastels, hinting at the nuances of tomorrow. But the lingering question weighed on her mind: would they wake up to a new reality, or see dreams slip like smoke through their fingers? This was just the beginning. A new battle was on the horizon, and Jessie couldn't shake the feeling that every choice would shape not only their future but the legacy of their community. What challenge awaited them next? The following day, Jessie woke up to the sun streaming through her window, casting golden light across her room. All the excitement from the previous day's meeting felt both exhilarating and daunting. She sat up, replaying every moment in her mind, each word and hopeful glance from the crowd echoing in her thoughts. But the unease lingered like a shadow in the back of her mind. As she brewed her morning coffee, Jessie gazed out the window at the neighborhood. In the distance, she could see farmers tending to their fields, the rhythm of their work a reminder of the life that pulsed through their community. Their faces were lined with weariness but also resilience. They were counting on her. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her promise settle heavily on her shoulders. She had an appointment that morning with a local journalist, Maya, who had shown interest in covering their story. As Jessie arrived at the small, bustling cafe downtown, she spotted Maya seated at a table by the window. Her notebook lay open, scribbled notes scattered across the pages. "Jessie! Over here!" Maya called, waving energetically. As they exchanged pleasantries, Jessie sensed Maya's enthusiasm. It was contagious. "I'm so excited about what you're doing," Maya said, her eyes sparkling. "I think your community needs to hear its own story." Nervous energy swirled within Jessie. "Thanks, but what if the council doesn't take us seriously? What if nothing changes?" Maya tilted her head, her expression shifting to one of understanding. "You can't focus on what might go wrong. This is a moment of hope. You're standing up for your community, and people will respond to that." Jessie felt a flood of warmth, a glimmer of reassurance igniting her spirit. They began discussing the nuances of their plan, and Jessie found herself speaking passionately about their vision for the community center and sustainable farming initiatives. "Your story is powerful, Jessie," Maya said after a time, "but it's not just about the projects. It's your passion. That's what will touch people. Share your fears, your dreams, and what's at stake for everyone." The words hung in the air like a spell, and Jessie's heart raced again at the thought of using her voice on such a larger stage. After the interview, as they stepped outside the cafe, the world felt brighter. Jessie saw the town alive with possibility. Farmers were setting up a market in the park, colorful produce laid out like jewels under the sun, and laughter mingled with the chatter of excited children. "Do you think the council will act?" she asked, turning to Maya. "They might surprise you," Maya replied. "But if they don't? Keep pushing. It's just as important." Jessie nodded, feeling something stir deep inside her, determination mixed with anxiety. She thought of her neighbors, their struggles and dreams intertwined with her own. But just then, a familiar face caught her eye. It was Hank, who had been her rock throughout this journey. He was waving her over, his demeanor as earnest as ever. She approached him, her heart pounding with hope and uncertainty. "Jessie!" he called, his voice bright against the backdrop of laughter and bustle. "You'll never believe what just happened." His excitement wrapped around her like a warm embrace, stoking the fire of anticipation. Jessie felt both anxious and exhilarated. What news lay ahead? What hurdle would they face next, and could they overcome it together? As Hank pulled her closer, Jessie felt the weight of unknown possibilities ahead. She was ready. Hank leaned in, his eyes wide with enthusiasm. "I just met with the council members. They're considering holding a special session next week to discuss the community project." Jessie's heart skipped a beat, a rush of hope flooding in. "Seriously? That's incredible. But what did they say exactly?" Hank scratched the back of his head, a nervous habit. "Well, it was a bit of a mixed bag. One member was really supportive, but a couple of them seemed skeptical. They want to know how we're planning to fund everything. Jessie felt her stomach churn. She hadn't thought about the financials in detail. Right, we need a solid plan. How can we convince them that this is worth it? Hank's confidence flickered. If we can show them the community's support, they might come around. Everyone at the market today was buzzing about your speech and the plans. Motivated by his words, an idea sparked in Jessie's mind. What if we organized a community event? A gathering where people could share their stories and show how much this matters to us. Hank nodded, his face lighting up. That could work. We could set up booths, gather signatures, maybe even have some live music. A true town celebration. Instantly, Jessie felt a rush of excitement wash over her. Exactly. We could call it Voices of Our Community. Let everyone come together and show the council we mean business. Hank grabbed her hand, a thoughtful look crossing his face. I'll help you organize. We just need to spread the word. As they brainstormed ideas, Jessie's confidence grew. The more she envisioned the event, the clearer it became, this was more than just a project. It was a chance to unite the town, to kindle bonds between neighbors who had spent too long in silence. After they parted ways, Jessie spent the afternoon gathering flyers, sketching out plans for their gathering. She could already picture her neighbors Mrs. Thompson's famous apple pie, the children's laughter, and the farmers proudly displaying their harvest. Later that evening, as she tucked herself into bed, she felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time since all this began, she felt like there was light at the end of the tunnel. Yet, the nagging fears still stirred within her. What if no one showed up? What if the council dismissed their efforts? She shook her head, banishing the thoughts like shadows before dawn. No more doubts. They were on the brink of transforming their community. Jessie would put faith in her neighbors, in their stories, and the power of collective voices. As the days flew by, Jessie poured her heart into the planning. She met with farmers, parents, kids with big dreams, discussing the gathering. She encouraged them to bring their stories, to share their hopes for the future. Word spread like wildfire, and slowly but surely, momentum was building, but just as everything seemed to be falling into place, catastrophe struck. A storm was forecast for the day of their event. Jessie's heart sank as she checked the weather reports again and again. The irony stung after all the hard work. Could nature throw a wrench into their plans? Would they face this new challenge head-on, or could the storm dampen their hope? Jessie stood at a crossroads, filled with a mix of dread and determination, asking herself, what was she willing to risk to make a difference? Jessie woke up to the sound of raindrops pattering against her window. The storm had arrived, fierce and relentless. Her heart raced, not from fear but from the realization that every drop felt like a challenge to the gathering they had fought so hard to create. She squeezed her eyes shut, wishing the weather would change, wishing the clouds would part, even if just for a moment. She pulled on her boots, determined not to let a little weather stop her. Grabbing her phone, she began sending texts to Hank, her neighbors, anyone who was involved in the planning. Hey everyone, let's meet at the community center today at 10. We need to adjust our strategy. The community center was a sturdy old building, weathered but full of history. It was a place where generations of families had come together, weddings, birthdays, even goodbyes. If the storm decided to rain on their parade, Jessie would transform their event into something beautiful inside those walls. When she arrived, the parking lot was buzzing with activity. Hank was already there, holding a big roll of plastic tarp. We figured we could create a makeshift festival inside if we need to. He exclaimed, his energy infectious. Jessie chuckled, feeling a flicker of hope. You're right. We can use the booths for stories and bring the music indoors. We'll turn this storm into a cozy gathering instead. One by one, people showed up, each bringing their own spark of creativity and determination. There was Mrs. Thompson with her famous apple pie, just in case. The kids showed up with instruments, ready to entertain. The farmers unloaded baskets of fruits and veggies, ready to share their harvest. The atmosphere around them was electric, pulsing with resilience. As they were setting up, Jessie took a moment to glance around the room. Neighbors were chatting, laughter was echoing off the walls, and it felt more like a family reunion than a community event. She smiled, heart swelling with gratitude. This was exactly what she had envisioned, a celebration of voices, of stories, of hope. But then, as the clouds rumbled outside, doubt crept in again. Jessie approached Hank, her voice barely a whisper. What if the council still doesn't show up? After all this, what if we fail? Hank looked her directly in the eyes, a determined glint shining in his. Jessie, it doesn't matter if they're here or not. Look at what we've built together. This is about more than them, it's about us, our community. We're already winning. A wave of warmth washed over Jessie. Hank was right. They were making memories, building something that couldn't be taken away, no matter how the clouds threatened. The council had put their faith in the community's voice, but they were the ones bringing that voice to life. As the storm raged outside, the gathering within the community center swelled with vigor. Soon, they were ready to kick off the event. Jessie took a deep breath, lifted her chin, and walked to the makeshift stage. Welcome. Thank you all for being here today, despite the weather. Let us share our stories and our hopes, because every voice matters. The crowd erupted in applause, and in that moment, Jessie felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. No storm could take that away, but then, just as she looked out at the faces of her neighbors, a loud crash sounded from outside. The windows shook as the power flickered. Jessie's heart dropped. The storm was intensifying. How would they pull off this celebration now? What was waiting for them just outside those doors? Would they be able to celebrate in the face of adversity, or was this a sign of worse things to come? The storm raged outside as Jessie steadied herself on the stage, heart thundering like the wind against the windows. She squeezed the microphone tightly, as if it could anchor her in the chaos. Glancing nervously at her friends and neighbors, she could see the mix of determination and trepidation in their faces. They had pushed through so much together, and today was supposed to be a celebration of those efforts. Just breathe, she whispered to herself, feeling the weight of the moment wash over her. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder shook the building, sending whispers fluttering through the crowd. Jessie kept her gaze on the audience, her voice steadying as she said, "We're here together despite the storm. Today isn't about the weather, it's about our resilience." Cheers erupted, and Jessie's heart soared as energy surged through the room. Everything they had fought for, all those sleepless nights planning, was converging in this very moment. As the storm howled outside, Jessie's friends began sharing their stories. It started with Betty, who recounted her early days on the farm, the laughter and sunshine, but also the struggles of making ends meet. She painted a picture of sacrifice but filled it with warmth that sparked joy among the community. The room filled with laughter and connection. Next, Charlie took the stage, guitar in hand. He strummed a few notes, creating a cozy atmosphere that wrapped everyone in warmth. His voice mingled with the storm, creating a melody of hope and resilience, an anthem celebrating their shared fight. With each song, the storm waves felt softer, almost like they were buoyed by the growing light inside the building. Then came Hank, standing taller as he shared his experiences from the war, his voice steady as he told of unity amid adversity. "We've all fought our battles," he said, eyes glistening with emotion. "But it's together that we find strength. This community is like family, one that I choose to fight for." Everyone erupted into applause, faces aglow with admiration for each other. Jessie's heart swelled. This was not just an event, it was a tapestry of lives intertwined, fading fears, and new hopes. Still, in the back of her mind lurked concern. Would the council members witness this wave of camaraderie? Would they realize the depth of the community's bond? Then finally, it was Jessie's turn. She stepped up to the microphone, hands trembling but resolved. The moment hushed as she faced the crowd, their eyes full of encouragement. "This might be our toughest hour," she started, her voice stronger now. "But look at us. In the midst of this storm, we found warmth and light in each other. We've created a family rooted in love, sacrifice, and urgency for change. We're not just asking you to listen to our voices today, we're inviting you to be part of something bigger. Together we can make a difference. As her words flowed, an unshakable conviction infused the air. We're ready to stand up for our future, one built on community, not corporations. We deserve the chance to thrive sustainably, to foster a legacy, not just for us but for generations to come. Tears glistened in eyes across the room. Cheers erupted, enveloping the building with hope. But then, another crash of thunder jolted Jessie, and the lights flickered violently before plunging them into darkness. Jessie's heart raced as the loud rumble of the storm encased them in uncertainty. Panic flickered in a few faces, but quickly, Jessie felt an urge bubbling inside her. "Everyone, stay calm," she called out, her voice piercing through the growing anxiety like a lifeline. "Let's turn this into an experience. Remember, every voice matters, even without a microphone." The audience rallied together, their whispers turning into chants, a unified symphony rising above the storm. The energy surged, lifted by the knowledge they were all in this together. Jessie, emboldened, led them through an impromptu round of story sharing, laughter echoing in the air like a beacon of hope. Outside, the storm roared, but inside, a revolution was brewing. When the power eventually flickered back on, it illuminated a room packed with passionate faces, smiles sprouting amidst tales of hardship and triumphs. In that moment, Jessie realized they had already won. The council might not yet understand their strength, but witnessing this unity unmasked the true spirit of their community, their resilience, their aspiration, their unwillingness to back down. As the gathering drew to a close, Jessie stood again at the microphone, her voice soft yet unwavering. "Let us show them we're not just a statistic. Together we will take our stories and voices to the council. We're strong, and they will hear us." Cheers erupted once more as the energy crackled in the air. In that stormy room, hope blazed brighter than ever, igniting a community ready to rise against the tides of uncertainty. Jessie felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had found the family she was always meant to have, and together they would face whatever lay ahead. And as they stepped back into the world, Jessie knew they were ready to turn the shadows of doubt into a brighter future. The storm may have raged that day, but a new dawn was surely on the horizon. This is the moment to stand up and fight for what you believe in. You need to subscribe now to our channel if you don't want to miss these incredible stories that inspire change. Hit that like button now to help keep the momentum going and show your support. Comment below your thoughts on Jessie's journey. How did it touch your heart? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who also need to feel the power of community and transformation. Together, let us keep sharing these stories because together we can change the world.